Hey, everybody. Welcome to our latest episode of the Legends of Tabletop podcast. We're going to be talking about NecronomiCon tonight, and we've assembled a big group of guests here, people that we hung out with, friends, other hosts. So we're going to have everybody introduce themselves before we get started. So we'll start with you, Ash. Go ahead, fire away.
Hey, my name is Ash. I am a Gothic Studies graduate student, and I presented at the last Necronomicon on video games and cosmicism.
Cool. All right, Brett, go ahead.
I'm Brett Miller, and I'm a musician and a guitarist, composer. And I met these guys 2 years ago at the first Necronomicon that I attended. And I stayed in the same bedroom with these two guys this time. That should just tell you what kind of camaraderie the Necronomicon engenders.
Absolutely. Chad, go ahead.
Right, so I podcast as Keeper Chad on the Miskatonic University podcast, and met up with the Legends of Tabletop guys at 2015 when things were just kind of getting rolling, and we've been kept in touch and been friends. And I was at NecronomiCon this year on a couple of gaming panels. The gaming side is kind of my side. The podcast is about horror gaming in general and Call of Cthulhu.
Cool. Leah?
Oh, me? I'm Leah Bond, and I do stuff for Legends of Tabletop, and I interview people, and I am just an all-around universal irritant. I am rather nosy, and I figure out, what are you doing? What are you up to? Tell me all about everything that's going on with you if you are a creator of any sort. And I am looking forward to this beautiful tome, and I am excited to bring you a review of what I have read and the pages contained within this tome of Tales from a Talking Board from Word Horde, coming out in October.
Awesome. And Pete, go ahead.
I'm Pete Rollick, author of Reanimators, The Weird Company, Reanimatrix, and Legacy of the Reanimator. What's the other one? Oh, the Peasley Papers, and a whole bunch of short stories.
Brand new Peasley Papers on the show like 2 weeks ago.
I don't even have a copy. And yes. Anyway.
How does that happen?
Well, that happens because we rushed production, and we got 20 copies made, and it went up on Amazon when it wasn't supposed to. And we sold the copies, telling people that there were going to be like little typographical errors that we had to fix still. So we took it down from Amazon as soon as we figured that out. But yeah, it's going to be done in like a week, and hopefully back up online.
Sweet. Everybody can check that out. There's an Amazon affiliate link on the website, so make sure if you're going to order through there, you go to the website and use that, right? Cha-ching.
Please do. Every little bit helps.
Absolutely.
The old woman kissed in the sea.
Yeah. Necronomicon was awesome again. I don't know if we want to touch on the bit of the kerfuffle that happened again this year. If that's been beat to death now, I don't know if that's something that we want to touch on.
We're better people than that.
Yeah, I was only ancillarily aware of what was happening anyway, so it was things across Facebook and
you can't now, dude. No, now you've titillated your audience. You have to talk about it now. I was just listening, and you said that, and then didn't go into it. I'd be pissed off. So talk about it.
No.
Okay.
Oh, jeez. We'll pause. For those in the know, I guess people who are part of the Lovecraftian community are probably more fully aware of things that were happening more so than I was. So I guess we'll pass on that.
Okay.
Wouldn't be a Necronomicon without some sort of upheaval, I guess, right? It seems to be the last couple of years has sort of run that way. But that does not detract from the event whatsoever. I don't think.
Not at all.
a wonderful event. It's a smaller con, which is great, right? I mean, you see the same people all weekend, and there's just tons and tons of activities. Unfortunately, it was a Gen Con this weekend, so it kind of pulled a lot of people away. Ken wasn't there, and Scott wasn't there, and we miss a lot of the game guys. Sandy Peterson
John
wasn't there.
Yeah.
So what? So we'll jump right into the front here. Like, what was your guys' favorite part of just being at Necro this year?
So I learned that Leah can really drink.
What?
That's good.
You're just now finding this out?
We started keeping track this time.
Really?
Yeah. And,
Okay.
and we noticed that every time we ordered beers, you ordered a tall.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's fine. Yeah. It's like, damn, not only can she drink, she can hold her liquor. And very surprised.
Congratulations.
I guess. Yay.
Yeah. But no, I think I don't know about anybody else, but the Thursday night party, the parking lot party.
Oh yeah.
Awesome.
Was
Yeah.
that big
Yeah,
house?
fun.
Yeah. That was really enjoyable, and I stayed a lot longer than I should have. I really did some damage to my feet, but it was well worth it. I'd like to see a few more food choices and some seating.
Other than marshmallow flavored ice cream?
Oh, man.
If they do it again like that, I mean, let's do it as a sub-event. Let's call it NecronomiCon. And,
Yeah.
and bring the food
like it.
trucks out, and
Yes.
I'll drop $30 or $40 on good food. I mean, when I got there Wednesday night at 11 o'clock into the airport, we got to our car at midnight, and apparently everything shuts down. So we had to go and on this Harold and Kumar quest for food, and we ended up at Olneyville, and it's sort of like this place that makes hot dogs in one of those roller things, and it was kind of scary because we had to be buzzed into the restaurant.
Oh jeez.
Oh, wow.
Is there a cage?
Yeah, basically. But yeah, and 3 chili dogs for $7. It was not bad. I really enjoyed it. But yeah, I think the food party, the welcoming food party on Thursday night was pretty cool.
Yeah, they unveiled the new Lovecraft beer for I guess for this quarter or however they released those. So
Yeah, that was the Temple.
yeah, the Temple. That was good. You don't need food if you have beer. I mean, come on, Pete.
Yeah. No, were you there on the last day? Who was it? That brewery, Narragansett Brewery, came by and gave all these flats of the Temple beer to all the vendors.
Yeah,
And I had to get rid of. You were there. You helped me dispose of a 6-pack. So
yes, we did.
Wow.
Yeah. Well,
You left too early, man.
Wednesday night, I came in Wednesday evening, and Vince and I were hanging out with Leah, and Vince went back and crashed, and Leah and I went up at the bar Wednesday night at midnight drinking beers over at Blake's. I think we were, right?
Yeah, Blake's, and then we ended up switching to Murphy's.
Murphy's, yeah.
So,
It was a common narrative for the cons. Yeah.
Well, they're close. The food's pretty good. They have beer, so I mean, whatever.
Yeah. They actually delivered the food.
Yeah. So we'll pause real quick. Jeff Wilkins has jumped in with us. Hey, Jeff, if you want to introduce yourself there.
Sure, Jeff Wilkins. I'm one of the normal regular players on Into the Darkness. We do the video podcast Actual Plays.
NGM, don't sell yourself short.
Yeah, that's true. I'm preparing a new one, so I'm getting ready to run one again soon.
We met Jeff last time at in 2015. I was sitting in Dunkin' Donuts having a bagel and a cup of coffee, and he comes in kind of like wandering around. And I'm not the most social person, which I guess isn't portrayed very well across the podcast. But I'm like, hey, you want to sit? Like, how's it going? Who are you? What are you doing? And Jeff had never played an RPG, was just getting into things, and here 2 years later, GM, he's on a podcast, he's doing all the things. It's just such an awesome story. It's really cool.
Rags to riches.
Yeah.
All right, where are the riches, man?
Yeah, that's true.
Cinderella story.
So Jeff, we were talking about like your most favorite part here right up front with what was going on with Necro this year.
Yeah, I mean the thing with Necronomicon that gets to me is there's so many things going on that you decide that you want to do this, and that automatically means you're going to miss out on something good that you also want to do. Yeah. So this time around, I ended up playing a few games, and I got to play with Paul Fricker and Matt Sanderson. That was like kind of the highlight for me. So just being able to play with those guys, that was awesome.
You say a couple. I think maybe you underestimated a little bit.
I think I ended up doing 4 games in total.
Nice. That's an investment. That's a lot of time.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. All right. What about the rest of you hep cats there?
Segueing to gaming, I guess. A highlight. I can't really identify favorite, but on Saturday there was the Extra Life session that went from 2 in the afternoon until 6, I think. And it was something I went into very skeptically. It was a charity event where each GM ran 30 minutes of a game, of a Call of Cthulhu game, kind of a stripped down version. And those all fed into each other, and then there were portals, and so you'd be playing along, and then a portal would appear, and you'd go to sort of the next setting, and they're all very different settings. So I did one of the 30-minute sessions, but we're talking about, 8 different sessions that culminate together, and Mike Mason sort of did the finale, and it was an amazing, fun experience. You could pay to mess with people, so you could do a little donation to have a monster appear, or require a player to speak in a Scottish accent, or to just kind of mess with people. And so they raised almost $800 by doing that in 4 hours, and it was a blast. By the end of it, it was sort of like stadium style, because all the survivors at the end were playing a single last scene with Mike Mason, but everybody was being the spectator who had been eliminated. And so it was this, just a very cool group gaming experience that I thought was going to be, frankly, kind of dumb. But 30 minutes of gaming, I was like, how's that going to work? There's no depth there. That's not going to be that much fun. But it was outrageously good. And in a short amount of time, I got to play with Scott Dorward. I got to play right next to Niels Hobbs. I got to play with Badger and other friends that I probably wouldn't have been able to, put in a 4-hour session with. And so it was kind of a compact set of awesomeness for me.
Cool. Yeah, I knew that was going on. I unfortunately wasn't able to make it in there, but I did talk to Jessica, who coordinates all the gaming over there for Necronomicon, and they're slowly expanding the gaming portion of the con. So that's really good, because it's a nice blend between that literary aspect and the gaming, and you've got the art show, and there's music, and like Jeff said, there's so many different things that are going on that you can take. They have the movie stuff going on. So there's just a ton of stuff. And Providence is just a great little place. The weather was beautiful this year. It wasn't all that humid. I was a little kind of like, oh man, it's going to be super muggy. I'm not looking forward to that. But it was beautiful.
Yeah, 2015 was brutal weather-wise.
Yeah, it was.
However, I will say that, it was a mistake to try and walk to the art show.
Oh gosh, yes. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I'll have to say that was a highlight for me, a definite highlight, but death. Otherwise.
I come from Florida. We have a 1-inch grade across the entire state.
Students at Wichita State University have done a grade 2 scale of a pancake and compared it to scale with a model of the state of Kansas, and the state of Kansas is flatter than the surface of a pancake. So, I mean, there is no topography whatsoever. So Hill was like, what is this thing?
And you think the worst part is going up the hill? But
Thank you for letting me.
You have to come.
Thank you for letting me cling on to you so I could not roll down.
You have to come down the hill, and like there are things like roads and rivers in front of you that if you lose your footing, you're going to die. And apparently the city knows this because they put handrails in.
Well, Brett and I and Vince walked around Jesus all day Thursday. I mean, I think Brett came in about noon, and we dropped your shit at the room and we walked around till 6, 7 o'clock at night, uphill both ways in some instances. I don't understand how that's a thing, but yeah, it was crazy. We were all over the place.
That's one of my favorite things about it is just environment and Lovecraft's fun, but I really do take it seriously too. Like I don't want to say it's a spiritual thing, that'd be kind of lame, but that environment, it's really impressive to me to be there and being able to see the library, being able to just see all the architecture, which I enjoy. So it's a lot of fun for me to go there too because it just reminds me of that. It's just like the coolest parts of historical Boston, and everywhere you look, it's not just one little neighborhood; it's everywhere. So that was a lot of fun walking around. The hills are tough, but it's part of the fun.
We got to do it here.
Yeah, So I enjoyed that a lot. That was actually one of my favorite parts, just walking around and enjoying it.
Cool. What about you, Ash?
It was, so I was at 2013 and 2015, and for both of those, like every like slot of time I went to something, so by the end of it I was just run ragged. And for this one I like scheduled in almost nothing, so it was actually being able to walk around Providence and kind of experience Lovecraft's Providence for the first time, despite being there for the 2 other Necronomicons. So going to the art show, the Anatheum, like walking around Brown, just seeing all this, and then actually being able to do the tour in the booklet and being like, oh, that's the shunned house. Oh, an evil wizard used to live there. Like that was just so much fun.
That's cool. And we met online. We got thrust into a panel together, so kind of reached out on Twitter. So that was really cool because you were like super responsive, and you were tweeting while we were, I think, at like Blake's one night, and you're like, oh, I'm sitting in the room, and I'm like, no, you've got to come down to Blake's just in time for last call.
Right? Yeah. Just in time for one drink, but one drink was pretty good. So
I felt kind of bad afterwards. I didn't realize how late it was. But they were cool. I mean, we spent quite a bit of time and quite a bit of money in there. So,
right.
Yeah, that was awesome. Whoever was saying, once you schedule one thing, it kind of blocks you out for a bunch of other stuff. I mean, and that's that's any con, right? I mean, especially with especially if gaming is involved, because you're looking at a 4 to 6 hour slot on stuff, and we didn't schedule anything extra. Like we had our panels that we were doing, but kind of like you, Ash, we just sort of floated through. We recorded a bunch of other panels. Sunday morning at 8 o'clock I was up to get downstairs to the garden room to record a panel on fabulism that had Peter Straub. I brought one of his books with me. I was carrying it around, a huge tome all weekend, and I just could never catch him. I'm like, fuck it, I'm just gonna get up and go. Like Sunday was rough, but it was totally worth it. And he was super nice guy. Got a picture, signed a book, and it was really cool.
Did you ever have much luck, Pete? I remember you running around with the little suitcase, the little wheeled suitcase of books.
For signing?
You're muted.
Yeah. So believe it or not, I accomplished almost everything I set out to do.
Mhm.
I don't know how that happened, but literally late Saturday afternoon, I camped out in the hallway of the Biltmore, and as people walked by, I said, "I need you." And they were
That's
like,
awesome.
"Oh God, what's this guy doing?" And I got everything, almost everything I needed signed. And then I discovered that there were people who were at attendance who weren't even on the guest list or anywhere. Like we had beers with F. Paul Wilson and Tom Monteleone,
Mm-hmm.
and I saw Ruth Ann Emrys was there with Ann Pillsworth, but I didn't see Ruth Ann on any of the programming. I don't think her name was listed in the guide, which would have been nice because I have a couple books by her. But I had overextended myself anyway. I did not have these shit clothes home. But
That's great. I'm glad I packed light. That's for
Yeah.
sure, because the vendor halls.
Oh no, the merch.
Yes. I had so much fun at the vendor halls. Eve Trigny, pork Cheeto. He did pork Cheeto, and the Matthew and Bartlett's advent calendar. And I got both of those, and I was able to get them signed. So you did as well. So there we go.
Well, yeah, it was weird this year. They shortened the hours, I guess, or the days involved for the vendor hall, which I thought was kind of weird. And I wonder whether or not that's somewhat a reaction from the vendors themselves to be like, "Hey, I'm stuck in here for 4 days. I want to, kind of hang out at the con too." Like, what's the So, Pete, you were vending. So, was that a thing that kind of came up among vendors, or?
I don't know. I have been a bookseller for 25 years, and my commitment to the table, it's the Lovecraftizian table, was partial. I did about 50% of the time there. But I know as a businessman, when I have to make my money, I'm going to be in the vending room. So, and I want it open as long as possible. You might need to spell me for a few minutes, so I can get food and organic breaks. But I like a room open a long time. I did hear that some people the room was split over 2 rooms. The vending split on 2 different levels. I heard some complaints about that. I walked around both of them. Whenever I walked around, both of them were just as crowded as the others. This is a great improvement over not last year's, but not 2 years ago, but the first one,
2013.
Yeah, where vending was in
mezzanine.
3 different hotels.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
There was book vending, there was game vending, and then there was art vending, and they were all in different places, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
So
There were 3.
yeah.
Did you get a sense from 2015? Did it seem like there were more vendors or less? I had a hard time judging it based on it being in the split rooms like that.
Oh, I definitely think there were more vendors.
You think so? I was wondering that.
Yeah, I think there were more vendors, and that may have cut into other vendors' profits. This is the thing that you kind of have to be careful about, is if you expand your vending room, that's great for buyers, but it's not always the best for sellers, because there is a finite amount of dollar to go around. Unless you massively increase your attendance, but I don't think that happened. So,
How many more items did you get for your reading list? I'm just going to get that question out of the way.
I know the reading pile doubled in size.
Yeah.
And then I will shamefully admit, so on Sunday, I decided that I was going to reorganize my library. And about 12 hours later, I realized that I had bought books that I had already owned.
Oh, no.
So, starting in October, we will be auctioning things off on eBay.
That's not necessarily a bad thing.
No, it's not, because I got some really good deals because, you know, I could negotiate. But, yeah, I bought a lot of books, and I bought some books I already had, and, you know, I had to reorganize the library because I know these books are going to be coming onto the shelves, and yes, things are going to happen, and I actually said on Sunday I have too many books. And
Come on.
the rest, everybody else in the house looked at me like I had, you know, committed a piece of blasphemy.
Never.
Well, dude, when you move, like just in general, when anybody moves, books are the worst because they're like the heaviest damn things. And if you just have boxes, I hate to say this, but I got rid of a lot of books recently. Years I've been dragging them around if I move places, and it is just to move with books. The more you have, it's just.
And I, you know, one of the things I've done lately is I used to have a really great reference library. Like I have an entire book on Florida birds, and then I have a book on horses, just hundreds and hundreds of breeds of horses, just so that, you know, if I need it as a reference, I have it. But all that stuff now is on the internet. And it's actually easier just to get it on the internet than it is to go down and find it in the library. So, you know, I'm purging all that kind of stuff. And yeah, some of the other stuff is outdated. You know, I have beautiful books from the 50s and 60s, but all the illustrations and pictures are in black and white. And just doesn't work anymore. So the new edition is a little better. Got some color to it.
I've gotten a lot of my physical books just on the e-readers and the Kindle and stuff now. It's not the same as a book, but again, it's this big and so much more convenient. Like,
well, you can throw 1,000 books on a Kindle or whatever, but I still refuse. I don't do any sort of e-reading. I am strictly a book. On the plane coming home, I had 4 books in my backpack. I had another 8 books in my suitcase.
I was going to say, you only had 4, you lucky man.
Yeah, no, I went home with more than that, but that's what I had on my person.
Yeah. I guess the problem I have with ebooks is that you really don't own them.
No, you don't.
And I've actually had an experience where I lost. You know, Amazon took a book away from me.
Mm-hmm.
So
you've got to back your Kindle up.
Yeah.
One of yours.
Yeah. Okay. So I wrote a story for a book, and they sent me a copy of the book, and they sent me an e-copy for my Kindle. And somewhere along the line, the publisher, who was a sole proprietor, died.
Oh, I remember this. Okay.
And because it was a sole proprietorship, there was no way to move that publisher forward in the business world. So Amazon could not pay them for any books that were being sold. And they just cut the book from their catalog. And in doing so, cut it from everybody who bought it. It was no longer supported.
Well, that's crazy. If you've already spent the money, the publisher already got paid for what you have on your Kindle.
These are issues that will need to be addressed that haven't been yet, and legacy issues. Seriously.
There's a story about a woman who moved from Britain to Germany, and she lost everything on her Kindle because they're in 2 different zones.
Oh. And again, I'm just going to mention you might want to back up all of your Mobi files and your EPUBs off
Yep.
of your Kindle.
So
Prime example.
I get it. I love the Kindle. There's still some kinks to be worked out of it. It's not where I want it to be yet. So I'm still stuck in the real book world, and I'm probably going to be there for a long time.
Yeah, the only people who think you have too many books is your friends when you move. Although I have to admit, I've gotten rid of a number of books recently, like just an old stuff that's out of date. Just making room for other stuff. And, I said to Cody, I went up to him at the dealer room, and I'm like, I feel like such a poser. I said, you've been on the show. We've played games together. I don't have any of your books. Sell me some books. What do you have? Give me something here. So I wound up with some books from Cody, from Douglas Wynn, Laird Barron, Swift to Chase. I picked up your book, Pete. Unfortunately, not from you, but you did have them at the table.
Nope. Dude, I sold out of every single one of my books by Friday night. I had nothing Saturday morning.
Yeah. I think it was Saturday, like late was the first day that I'd even made it over to the dealer room because we were just so busy doing all the other stuff, and they weren't open on Thursday. Thursday we had all day, and it was closed.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
And what about you? You didn't schedule anything, Ash, but like your Twitter was just like everywhere. You were like live tweeting panels. Like somebody just, threw shade at the Edgar Allan Poe panel.
Yeah. The Gothic studies as like an academic field is for some random reason really active on Twitter. So I went to all of I went to the Edgar Allan Poe, the Southern Gothic, the Frankenstein one. And I forgot which panelist it was, but they made some like really wild claims about the history of the Gothic, and so it was pretty fun to watch a little firestorm happen.
Kids Johnson said to me at one of the panels that, they're dry and, sometimes they're not that fun, but occasionally, you're wondering whether or not someone's going to throw a cup of water on somebody because,
right.
Some weird instance like that, they have just such a deeply ingrained, no, it's this. And, maybe somebody who's newer in the field or younger, or, just different ideas can, come in and kind of shake that up. I didn't see any of that, but...
I just kept running into it.
Yeah.
Was anybody else?
Go
ahead, Chad.
So I wanted to ask Ash for an example of Firestorm. I didn't get to see it, so what's
it was. I'd have to go back through my Twitter feed and find out who said it, but somebody on the Edgar Allan Poe panel claimed that the Gothic literary tradition was started in colonial America and not England, where it definitely 100% without question started. And so that was like a very contentious claim to be made, just kind of thrown out there
with no backing. There was no
with no like here's why I'm making this really wild assertion.
All right. I think I know where we stand then.
Yeah.
Did anyone else sit in, just listen to the Machen? There was a Machen panel, I believe, on Saturday or Sunday. And one of the gentlemen that was presenting, and I did not catch who it was because I was busy hunkered down by a power outlet trying to charge my phone. He almost started crying about Machen. Yeah, he almost burst into tears. And I'm trying to remember, I can't for the life of me remember who this guy was. But he was an elderly gentleman. And he started talking about, what was it, the Grail or the Trinity that he had written, and how absolutely gorgeous it was. And I'd never read Machen, but it was that emotional testimony that makes me want to.
Was it what was the poet laureate of this year? Was it Donald Sidney Fryer? because he got really emotional during the poetry panel, and that inspired me to like jot down all of like the poems he was naming, because he was just like he was living and dying by like each line of each poem.
Yeah.
Really intense to watch.
He was
Yeah.
quite emotional during the opening too.
Yeah.
I got him to sign something, and it was like
Awesome.
you know, but he was really even emotional about that, because I guess he doesn't get that a lot, and here he was a superstar.
Yeah.
You know, so kind of cool for him, and it was nice to see him. He's like the elder statesman of poetry.
Well, that's really cool. And I wonder. So like for for you, Chad, and Jeff, and you, Pete. People come up. Because like you do your thing, right? You write. You have full-time job. You work. You're doing your thing, and then people come up and they're like, "Oh, can I get your autograph?" Like, or when I read this, or when I listened to the MU show, I was going through a rough time, and I listened to you guys. Like, you got like. What does that do for you guys when you kind of come across that sort of stuff? Because it's just like, we're hanging at a convention, we're drinking some beers, we're doing, Lovecraft trivia or whatever. So like, how is that for you guys when you experience that?
So somebody came up to me and said they had scheduled their entire schedule for the weekend around my panels and around the trivia.
Awesome.
Like,
Great.
What? No. That's crazy. That's insane. I'm nobody. If you want to spend some time with me, let's go grab a beer.
Well, there's that.
I'm a beer whore. Okay. I'd be glad to sit down. Let's talk. You don't have to stalk me throughout Necronomicon. But yeah, that was kind of weird. But it's it is definitely an ego boom. It's surprising. I don't realize that people send emails all the time to the Lovecraft e-zine and say that it's one thing they look forward to all week. It gets them through the weekend, and they listen to it on their drive into work on Monday morning, and they really miss it when they miss it. So that's kind of bizarre. But because I don't really think of myself as that kind of person, I'm just a guy, and I happen to be doing something I love in my spare time, which is to write these crazy stories, and play, Call of Cthulhu every once in a while when deadlines aren't looming. So anyway, that's my take on it.
What do you got, Chad?
Yeah, it's similar experience. There's a few of us who have talked about the imposter syndrome, the sense that you're sort of masquerading as somebody important. My feeling is not to diminish what you say, Peter, but I feel like writers kind of earn it. And I feel very much like I just kind of show up with my friends and blabber, and somebody edits it and puts it on the internet, and I don't feel like I've gained that status, deserve that status. So when somebody asks me for an autograph, it's weird because I haven't done anything. Is how I feel. I'm trying to write for the game. That's also, it's not like writing. Well, I won't say that on a podcast. I do think. Yeah, well, fiction. I don't know. Fiction is just a deeper kind of different bowel to trudge through, and it's hard. I know it enough to know how freaking hard it is. So, so getting an autograph for blabbering on a podcast is weird, and it doesn't feel like. But it's nice. It's really nice, and I will say I get a lot out of it. I get there's that fame part. It's kind of awkward, and there's a signing thing, but then there's a conversation. So I don't resent it for that, because it turns into something actual where, I can encourage someone to write into the podcast and connect with other people. I can talk about what they like in gaming and draw that out of them. So that part's valuable.
Right. I mean, we had been in contact before Necro 15, emails to the MU cast. And, but we, first time we ever met was at, in 15. And like you said, we just, we stayed in touch, we've been friends, and, we've been on Hangouts just like individually, just, chatting about stuff. And, it does, especially with a smaller con, because it's so much more personal. You have more time to interact with people. Like even Peter Strab, like when he was leaving his panel, I got a picture and everything, and he was on his way to like a short story reading, but he still like took the time and was gracious and said a couple of words. And, you go something like Gen Con, like you pay to demo a game with somebody and like, all these crazy things. So it's nice to have that smaller, sort of one-on-one interaction. Like Pete said, we'll go grab a beer. Like it's not that big a deal. So it's pretty cool. I tell you, on Thursday, I was so psyched for Brett. We were standing there. There were so many people around, and you guys were there. I was trying to find you in the crowd, and, Chris Lackey and Chad and everybody. And I'm standing there with Brett, and I think it was Chad Pfeiffer, wasn't it, Brett? Came up, and I'm like, hey, Chad, how's it going? And he looks at Brett, and he goes, you're Brett Miller, right? And I was like, oh, it's so fucking cool. The guy from the literary podcast knows Brett, or just knows him to see him. I was like, that's so cool.
Yeah, that was cool. There was for me, there was maybe 2 or 3 people that probably recognized my shit. I get more of that kind of stuff online. I get a lot of people that write me, oh, this is awesome, but people definitely aren't coming up to me live at something like this. I was trying to find some people who had bought Oath of Dagon. There wasn't a lot of people there because a lot of people bought it internationally and everything. So it would have been cool to have a little kind of get together just to talk metal with people that were really into metal and who were familiar with this stuff. It was a lot of fun. Again, just being around everybody who's. My other big thing there is just being around so many people who just know about Lovecraft, So, whether people are familiar with what I do or not, doesn't matter. They're familiar with Lovecraft. That's what I give a shit about.
Brett, I know that there's 4 or 5 different composers that come to Necronomicon and whatnot. Was there a music panel this year or no?
I don't think so. No.
You should really talk about. You should propose that as a panel for the next time.
That's an excellent idea.
I thought about that. I was actually telling John what I'd love to do is do a talk about what was going on in the world of music kind of during Lovecraft's time, in the teens and the 20s, because just like with the parallel stuff in the world of art, where it was just of all these new scientific streams of thought, where everything was just being deconstructed, and anything was happening with music. You had all the atonal stuff. You had all the, just weird harmonic things going on, weird instrumentations, all kinds of shit. And I think people would really get a kick out of that stuff that they probably never heard. I mean, most people don't listen. Most people haven't even heard Beethoven nowadays, So nobody's heard that was going on in that time. And I think that's super Lovecraftian, a lot of these things, because you got all the Crowley stuff going on in the occult world. You've got all the, the Dali stuff and the weird, avant-garde shit, and the music too. It was just this whole kind of clusterfuck down. And it would be super fun to just make a big playlist and talk about those kind of people. So it's something I thought about. So I probably will talk to someone to see if they'd be interested.
I would really encourage. I'd like to hear it. It's not my genre of music, but I'd like to hear about it because that's where new ideas are going to come from. I wrote that story, The Spaces Between, about atonal music and cosmicism, and that comes from just doing a little bit of research and going down a path you don't normally go down. You're getting inspired. So, yeah, I'd like to see that.
You can take the
I don't know
rest.
if you guys ever heard of Scriabin's one of my favorite composers. He was this Russian guy. And manic, like he died because he had this giant boil on his face that got infected, but like he wouldn't let the doctors lance it because he thought that he was essentially like Jesus Christ, and you couldn't cut to be like defiling God. Like it's all this crazy shit. But he wrote this insane stuff, and it was going on with that. Like he was really heavily into the occult. He was really heavily into theosophy, all this kind of stuff, and actually good. A lot of the atonal stuff kind of sucks as music, you know, just in terms of listenability. But it's a cool idea. You know, the intellectualism behind it is very cool. I will talk to people about that. I'll get in touch with Neil, right? Because he's the guy that runs it.
I'll make a note. Make sure we get you in there next time.
Oh yeah.
And so speaking of panels, you did one of the academic panels. What was that like compared to some of the other panels that you watched, participated in? Yeah, you.
Oh, the one that
I don't know. Maybe somebody else did it too, but I know specifically you went to one of the.
Yeah, I went to. Honestly, I went to. That was the only one I went to. I told you I didn't even look at the schedule pretty much till I got there. I browsed a little bit online. There wasn't a ton I was interested in. I went to more of them 2 years ago, but these were two guys who do the Lovecraft Science website, Lovecraftian Science, I think it's called. Really cool because they were good. They were good speakers anyway.
Fred Lubno.
Yeah, I think so. And he was the mathematician? There was a guy who was like a marine biologist.
Fred's a marine
That's
biologist.
Lubno.
That's Lubno, yeah. And it was him, and he was a mathematician. I'm really into that, like the weird mathematics and the weird physics stuff anyway. So he was all talking about the fourth dimensional physics and the tesseracts and yeah, I like that a lot.
So I'm going to tell you a little story. I found out Fred went to UC Davis in California, and he studied under the guy who's my mentor in Florida. So like 1 degree of separation between us. And, you know, he's an aquatic ecologist, and that's what I do. He's, you know, it's kind of crazy stuff that we're like twins almost. Anyway.
Well, it's funny that you're both into Lovecraft too, with all the octopi. What's the genus or whatever? What are they called?
Cephalopods.
Yeah, cephalopods. There you go. Yeah.
And for you, Chad, how did your guys' experience go with the live show? It was a little bit different this year than 2015.
Yeah, 2015 was very garage band. 2 guys with a microphone that we were lucky to get, and then this year we amped it up. We did a dual podcast with another podcast that sort of covers the same territory, the Good Friends of Jackson Elias, and so it was 6 of us up there plus Mike Mason, line editor for Chaosium for Call of Cthulhu, and it's a lot of people. It was kind of, you know, we had a kind of strange puppet show situation. We had it was a lot of production, and not all of it went so well. Our recording was like we did everything okay, except the recording didn't go so well. So the actual output of the podcast, you know, we'll have to piece together. But anyway, yeah, it went really well. It was fun to be on stage with those guys. It was kind of a nice bonding of worlds. And a fun topic. We talked about Lovecraftian, what makes your game Lovecraftian, or how to bring Lovecraft into your game. So it was pretty juicy, I thought.
John's disembodied head was awesome.
Yeah, it sort of started as a joke, an inside joke of, well, John's not going to be there. Well, we have to have a puppet of him. In 2015, I made a puppet of Merv, another co-host, and so we kind of carried that forward. And my friend Galen Pichot made this face that was almost like a comic book kind of half shadow face that came together in pieces, and we had a little pre-recorded message. it was goofy as heck, but I don't know. Sort of still glad. Bring a little theater to the panel experience, I guess.
I think the audience loved it too.
I hope so.
One of the things I'm really impressed with is whether it's a magic show or a dramatization or music, live music, it takes guts to get up on stage, not your stage, but a stage that you've never worked on before, with equipment that's not yours, and try and pull it all together, and actually get a halfway decent job.
Yeah,
that's crazy to me. I got it easy. I just have to bring a piece of paper and my voice. You guys have way more to do.
Yeah, I'm really impressed with how the convention has evolved that theatricality with HPL, the HP Lovecraft Historical Society stuff. The HP Podcraft puts on a really tight show. Big Nazo. I mean, I just really like all of the weird, theatrical approaches to Lovecraft, whether it's information and sort of analysis or it's stage productions. I missed the New York City one that they did a King in Yellow kind of thing, and I missed that. You have to make all these cruel choices in the schedule, but I just love that there is all this theatricality and interesting takes on expressing love of Lovecraft and interest. Yeah.
About 4. Go ahead, Leah.
Oh, I was just going to say, Big Nazo did a fantastic job with the tentacled beasts that were coming out during their theater program at the very end of the convention. I loved it. What was that movie, Dagon?
The Dunwich Horror.
The Dunwich Horror. I'm sorry. No, not Dagon.
The Dunwich Horror Picture Show.
Favorites, but yeah, the Dunwich Horror Picture Show. I loved that, and it was a real highlight for me as well. So, fantastic job, you guys.
A couple of years ago, there was an editorial in the New York Review of Science Fiction complaining that there wasn't enough live sci-fi, fantasy, horror drama productions, and what was out there wasn't getting noticed or reviewed, so nobody knew about it. And since that editorial came out, I think the world has just exploded. That there is more dramatizations of works going on at conferences and conventions, and they are getting noticed. And I think it's a really important kind of venue and movement that we're not fully aware of yet. But I'd like to see more of it. I'm really entertained by it.
That's hard to do too, because effects or without the lighting, or because going up there to try and move or just based on words, but it's hard to get up there, and if you don't have a lot else going on, just speaking or with a microphone, it's hard to scare people doing that. You know what I mean?
I do. And that's why it becomes more about what you're actually saying, and you don't have to rely on that special effect anymore. You can't rely on it because you don't have it. So it becomes more about the dialogue and the acting than it does about special effects.
That's what was so great about those old black and white movies in the 50s. You never saw the creature. You never saw the murder. Like, as things would reach a climax, it would cut away and you'd hear a scream, and you knew, and the things that you could imagine were always much worse than what they could have showed you on the screen. I wonder, Pete, as you're saying that I wonder if you're saying sort of unconsciously, if that's sort of a visceral reaction to the sort of the disconnectedness we have now with, cell phones and the internet, and, we're doing this thing on Hangout, to just where you have just that interaction between the people on the stage and the people in the audience, just sort of a primal, you know, goes back to the, you know, storytelling around a campfire and you know, oral traditions and you know, older cultures and things. So I wonder if that's, like, I enjoy that. Like, I enjoy old time radio and all that kind of stuff. So I just wonder if it's, you know, kind of maybe, you know, coming back around because people are unaware that they missed that.
Yeah. I mean, how many times have we seen a monster up on the screen and say, yeah, that fails? You know, it just doesn't work. You know, and if you try and do it right, it's going to cost you a couple $1 million because you have to CGI it. And even then, it's going to look stupid sometimes. But if you just keep it off screen, I mean, what is it, Absentia? Keeps that monster off screen the whole movie, and it works. It works tremendously. Yeah, and you know, the dramatic reading of the Call of the Cthulhu that was done was excellent. It took the original material and rewrote it as a one-man play and a monologue that worked. And I was enraptured by that performance, even though it was so freaking hot.
Yeah. A lot of those things were pretty warm.
Yeah, in that big room, man, it was brutal. In that big room there.
Yeah, the garden room was tough. So what do you have any thoughts on that, Ash? Being, you know, with your work with Gothic literature, do you kind of get a sense of that, or?
Yeah, Lovecraft's writing really doesn't lend itself to like the Paranormal Activity kind of jump scare handycam aesthetic that's really popular right now. So I think that like these stage performances are a lot closer to what Lovecraft would have like been if he was a playwright, you know? Like he wouldn't have been writing like jump scares and a lot of like giant gory monsters running around. He would have been writing like, you know, these kind of weird plays. Like I went to the King in Yellow play or stage performance that was at NecronomiCon this year, and the audience that was attending the King in Yellow played the audience in the play. Like it was this clever little fourth wall break. And like, I don't know, maybe it was just me, but like there was some tension floating through it, because in the story of the play, like the audience was trapped inside a theater that was about to be set on fire, you know? So I think that wound up playing really cleverly.
Yeah, and it was probably hot in there already, so it
yeah, it felt like the fire was lit. Yeah.
Cool. Well, and most of you here were on the two panels. We pitched 2 panels for this year, which was pretty cool. They got accepted after kind of worming their way through the process. We'll leave things at that, but you know, it was first time for me. Like Pete was saying, you know, you're on someone else's stage. Like we do this every night, right? Or, you know, once a week, whatever. So it's like, oh, it shouldn't be that big a deal. Like Chad said, oh, you're fine. You podcast, you're okay. It was terrifying to go up there on Friday night and do that first panel. And I was so appreciative that you and Dan, Keeper Dan, from MU Podcast, you guys came and, you know, were there for moral support. And, you know, I appreciate that, because, you know, a little bit of a stating influence. Like we had a good group. Ash was there and you know, Leah was on that panel. Jeff, you were not on that panel. You were on the other one, right?
Correct. Yeah.
On the other one. And you know, I mean, everybody said they went okay. Like, you know, nobody died. Nothing got set on fire.
Nobody fell off the podium stage there.
I really enjoyed that panel, by the way. I legitimately just enjoyed the discussion. It kind of went in a lot of different directions, but I enjoyed the sort of stream of consciousness aspect of it, and a lot of interesting territory was covered that I would have sought out if it was just a panel about, you know, a slice of that. So it was cool.
Right. We had a lot of audience participation, which certainly helped a lot. The
yes.
What was his name, Daryl, or I don't remember what his name was, but he was another guy. It wasn't like he was associated with one of the other groups. You know, he was very involved. Daryl, I think maybe it was. You know, asking a lot of questions and making a lot of comments. So that was super helpful.
Yes. And
I was wrong too. Oh, go ahead, Leah.
Oh, I was just going to thank you all again, everyone that sat on the panel with me, because I know that I interjected quite a bit with some off-the-wall things and my flippant memory that tends to slip away. I appreciate all of you having all of your shit together, and mine is not.
Well, I was going to say I was wrong about the one guy who, you know, kind of came into the panel at the last minute. I thought he was going to hijack the whole thing. So I was like texting John. I was like, watch out for this guy. He's going to try and hog the whole thing. But I was wrong.
Before we started, my phone jingled, and it was Brett. And I'm like, I'm literally right here. What are you texting me for?
He was great. What was his name?
It wasn't Matt.
Right next
Matt
to
was
Ash.
the younger guy. Michael, I want to say maybe.
It was the guy. He was doing he's like video game studies or something like this, or game studies, or
The older guy.
something like that.
Yeah.
The older guy.
Yeah, he was. So we were getting ready to set up, and he was kind of hovering by the table, and he's like, "Oh yeah, by the way, Neil's asked me to be on this panel." I'm like, "That's news to me."
Yeah.
Like I just emailed him like last week, and we finally got everything all settled. I'm like, "Have at it, I guess." I don't get another chair.
Well, I don't know what your perception was, but I think once the video game thread started, it was the audience had a lot to give back, and was clearly like, this is something we all agree on.
Yes.
And I'm just down on the end, like, I don't know what you guys are talking about, because I really only do tabletop now. But that was cool beforehand, because I'd reach out to Ash and like, hey, what's your perspective? Like, we're on this panel. What are you, where are you coming from? So, you kind of get a feel for, where everyone else was on the panel. I mean, obviously, I'm strictly like tabletop stuff. So I thought we struck a nice balance between, but like you said, Chad, I think people, began to become more animated. Like, oh, video games, what?
I know, yeah. And I have to say, I probably wouldn't have gone to a video games panel. It's kind of what I said, in code before. But I really, really enjoyed it. I don't play that many video games, but I recognize, just like theater, it's a really interesting way to have that discussion about what's Lovecraftian.
Totally.
And
it's cool now. Like, it seems like there's a plethora of Lovecraftian video games that are now coming out, or have come out, or are coming out, expected to come out, in the near future. So, I mean, there are a lot more options for people who, are into that medium, to be like, oh, I love Lovecraft and I love video games, and now I can do both of these things, and it doesn't have to be some weird ancillary, like, well, it's kind of like a Lovecraft. There's a tentacle somewhere, so like I'll play that one, but no, it's a Lovecraft game specifically. So that's pretty cool.
Well, I mean, and then you've got video games like, well, what is it, Dark Space or Dead Space? I think it was Dead Space, where it starts off like things happened with the ship, and then as you get further and further along, it's like, oh, dead wife, you died, dead wife, what the hell? And then at the end of the game, it's like, dead wife, you're making a ton of sense. Let's rebuild the marker. Yes. Why did I not pay attention to you before? So, yeah. It may not specifically be Lovecraftian, but I think that it had a lot of undertones. I mean, you get a lot of that with different video games.
It was very weird fiction, at the least.
Oh, absolutely.
And there's nothing wrong with that, right? Like, we got to take it where we can get it. I mean,
Right.
as popular as Necronomicon may be, we're still sort of rather sub-niche in the whole, kind of thing going on. So, like, but it's cool, and everybody, like Brett said, everybody's super into it. So, like, you can be there and be as geeky, as nerdy as you want to be, and the guy that's standing next to you, the gal that's standing next to you, it's the same thing, because they're there because they're into weird fiction. Like, it's popular, and I'm not knocking it at all, but like, it's still sort of on the lower end of things, right? But like, everybody there is just so into it. It's just it's so cool to be part of that community, because you just walk up to somebody and be like, yeah, Lovecraft, thing, right? And they're like, yeah, cool, Lovecraft thing.
Oh, the ones that actually know how to talk to other human beings.
Well, we ran into a little of that. Again, that's a con. I mean, you get that a little bit. It was funny. As we were wandering, we found a little game store. So I'm like, shit, we got to go in because it's a game store and I've got room in my suitcase. So obviously I'll go in alone. And you go in and like, you're on vacation, you're at a thing, you're hanging out, and, go in like, hey, dude, how's it going? Blah blah. Hello. Okay, like, how's it going? How's your store doing? And like, it's just fine. It's whatever. And I think it was Brett was like, oh, you guys have a table at Necronomicon. We're here for the event. We don't have anything to do with them. All right. Okay, guy, we're just going to go.
Oh, really?
Like, this is why your store is empty. Like, you don't want to be here.
No, we determined that we probably walked down on him jacking off to like anime or something, and he was all pissed when we walked in there. I came in from the back,
Yeah.
So that was our running theory.
Oh no! Now I have an idea for merch. We need a Cathilla pillowcase.
Oh. Oh. Oh my God. Oh, it would probably sell. Oh.
Probably.
Probably my ass. It would totally sell.
All right, I'm going to edit this out. Next convention, we're going to have Cthulhu bill cases.
No, Cathilla too.
That's awesome.
Can I pre-order for a friend?
Yeah.
Look, I'm just going to start using selling soiled underwear.
That's a thing in Japan. That's crazy.
It's not just Japan.
Well, okay.
That's real. Ooh, a vending machine. That's something you haven't seen in the vendor hall. That could get crazy pants.
Oh my.
Yep.
I need to find a good source of booth monkeys in Providence. Yeah, I just can't, there's no reason for me and Mike to sit there. We could, yeah, anyway.
Money to a Kickstarter if you actually hired monkeys. $500 on that.
Well, they tried them in the post office.
Yeah.
They made 10% fewer mistakes, but they were 5% slower.
We did another panel on a Saturday morning, bright and early Saturday morning, which was not. Oh my God, Pete's turned into a small puppy.
Oh man!
If you're watching the video, it's adorable. So we had a panel bright and early in the morning, and Chad was on that. Jeff, that was your first panel ever too, right?
Yeah.
How was your experience with that? How did you feel going in? How did the panel go for you? How'd you feel afterwards?
Yeah, I was very nervous. I mean, I still am nervous now, just because I feel like the little fish in the big pond here. So, but
no, absolutely not.
But yeah, I mean, everybody was really nice, and I thought it went well. It was hard to get a read on the audience, so I wasn't sure.
They were kind of quiet.
Mm-hmm.
Was this at like 8 o'clock in the morning?
Nah, it was like 10:30.
All right, so they're still.
It was 10:30.
They're not drunk anymore. They're just hungover.
They're just miserable.
Oh, that's
Notice I
something
was
that
nowhere
never
to be
happened before to me. Oh my God! So
What's up?
I had never gotten drunk, become sober, and then gotten drunk again without going to bed.
Yes. Okay. It's round
Win.
2.
Hey, you're not on screen anymore. Yeah, but no, that was just like, so we started drinking like after we got done back from the art show. We started drinking, and then we sobered up, and then we went to another bar and drank again. And then we went back to the first bar, and they threw us out. And then we went back to another bar, and they threw us out. No, they wouldn't let us in.
No.
And then we went back to the first bar, and they said, you drank all our beer.
What?
Am I wrong, Leah?
Are you sure you're at
I
the bar?
don't remember.
I think that we walked into was it Murphy's?
Oh, yeah, it was Murphy's. Oh, wait, was Murphy's the one where we ended up feeding the waitress 6 shots?
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
That was the night that Ash came over.
Yes, that was.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And what we're not mentioning is that while we were feeding the waitress shots, my driver was drinking shots too.
Oh, yes.
No,
He was kind of
Yeah.
wearing shots at that point.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then
We're
didn't
still
he give you
on
the
air.
keys at that point too?
Yes.
Are we still on air?
Yes.
Oh, God.
So here's what I discovered.
Ah.
Every time he drove, he took I-95 and I-10 or whatever, and it took all this time. And then one morning, his uncle just drove us into town through back roads, and it was like 10 minutes. I'm like, what? It's like a bicycle ride if we did it his way. So that was kind of bizarre. But yeah.
Did anybody make it out to Lovecraft's grave this year while you were there?
We
Not
did
this
not
year.
make it to Swamp Point.
Yes.
Yeah, we did not either. We had intended to, and just never made it.
I got to walk this guy, so I'm going to sign off.
All right. Thanks,
All
Pete.
right? I'll see you guys later. Enjoy the rest of
All
your
right.
evening.
Thank you. You too.
To go out. See you next week. All right.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
There's the first one.
That's how this goes.
Yeah. One by one. It's like a murder mystery.
Yes.
So
How about panels? Can I ask, did anybody catch any panels that they would highly recommend?
I enjoyed all the ones that I went to. There was one on fabulism, which was interesting. I think I actually just edited that one today. But yeah, Pete was on one with Cody Goodfellow about writing a non-stale mythos tale, and about whether or not Cthulhu is overused, and sort of you have plushies and things now, so like how much horror is left in it, and that sort of stuff. The fabulism one was interesting. Peter Straub was on that one, which is really the only reason why I went down, but it turned out to be an enjoyable panel. There were some of the ones that Ash went to I wanted to go to, like the Poe and the Southern Gothic, and again, you just have to make choices to,
All the ones you're naming are ones that I wanted to go to but couldn't make because I was at other stuff.
I should have brought 2 recorders. I could have gave you the other one.
Next time.
Yeah.
Did anyone catch the Shirley Jackson one?
No.
Okay, that's one I wanted to go to.
Yeah, there's always so many different things going on.
I felt like this time versus last time. I felt like last time there was a little more schedule in terms of the topics. I felt like this time, and maybe I'm wrong, I felt like this time was really heavily weighted to writing and like and I felt last time it was more. You had like some archaeologists there. You had people talking about like psychology. I felt like there was a little bit more of a variety of topics, and all of them stuff is stretching to be Lovecraftian. It's very sort of ancillary over on the side, but still, I felt this year was a lot more just kind of writing or like poetry. I don't know what you guys think.
Well, did they do the academic panels in 2015? I don't remember them being in the book. I thought maybe that was a new edition.
I don't
The
know if they called
Armitage
them. Well, that's what I mean. I don't think they called them academic panels. I think it just was generally more anyway. You know what I mean? So they didn't kind of pigeonhole it as academic. But maybe I'm
that
crazy.
could be.
Maybe I'm crazy.
I went to a bunch of they were called the Armitage Symposium ones.
Yeah.
The short. Is that what you're talking about with the
I think
academics?
so. Yeah.
Yeah. I went to a bunch in 2013 and 2015, and none this year. And I'm kind of regretting it because I really like them. They're often not awesome. They're
Way to
often
sell
very. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, it's a mixed bag. So you'll get one that's very much somebody's white paper that they just kind of are reading, or you'll get a PowerPoint presentation that's kind of terrible but might have been great in an academic setting. And then you'll get one that's really animated and interesting and weird and goes in directions you didn't expect. I find those are just so strange that I can't stay away from them, except I did this year, and I promise not to next time.
Now, have you done panels in the past? Like, so you were on our panel this morning, Jesus, on Saturday morning. Had you done panels, or have you only done the live shows while you've been there?
Only live shows, and the first one was 2015. I've done panels in other settings, but not. And prize, and it was more. So each time I was on two panels and the live show, and it like, oh, this is what it's like to be kind of. This is what it's like to miss the other panels because you're on a panel.
Right.
And there's there.
So you said you've done other panels before. What was your experience with this one in particular in this setting, and talking about gaming and all that kind of stuff? Do you feel comfortable doing that? I mean, obviously you're very comfortable in front of the microphone. Was there any sort of trepidation for you to have something a little bit more not as freeform, because it was sort of stream of consciousness, but different than doing a live show where you're, have a script and, props and all the other stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah. For the live show, I sort of feel like the people who are there probably know us, and we can just be ourselves and be goofy. There was, for both the panels, the one that we did with you and the one on favorite scenarios on Sunday morning, which is not an awesome slot. Just timing wise,
yeah.
Oh God. But I a lot of nerves and wanted to prepare a lot, and we were told to pick 5 scenarios to talk about. I picked 5 and did sort of weeks of, not weeks working the whole time, but little notes as I went, and I have another thing to think of. So I had probably a monologue of 3 hours set up. I mean, not by, I didn't mean to, but then we got there and he gave us each one scenario, and it's like, well, did this hour just end? What happened? I have all this stuff to talk about. So I overdid it. I was glad I did. It's better than maybe than underdoing it. But I felt a responsibility for being on a panel to bring something new. Whereas I don't necessarily feel that way about the podcast. Is that bad?
Well, no, like you said, it's different. People that are coming to the live show, you would think, kind of know what's happening already. So, I mean, like you said, they know you guys. They kind of know the humor and all that sort of stuff. So, like, if it gets tangential, like, nobody's gonna be like, I don't understand what's happening now.
Yeah, I feel very responsible to the moderator too. In the case of our panel, I felt very much like I was kind of serving you as to sort of bring something to show up. Same way Mike May is the moderator on the. Felt like, I want to make him proud. I want to, he invited me.
Oh, Chad, you're super robot. You froze up.
Do it.
Oh, there you are. You're like in a bed cell area.
Aber.
Yeah, you're getting like super choppy. Yeah. Mm.
Yeah, you're traveling under some bridges, man.
Hey, I'm gonna be the second guy to bail because I'm still in my office here, so I gotta get home.
All right, before you leave, because you didn't
So-
answer my text message, does the 24th work for you of September?
Are you texting
Yes.
me on the group thing?
Not in the group thing, and
I
then
might
I
have
might have
that
texted
blocked.
you separately as well.
I gotta check that because I might have blocked that by accident or something because I never get in those group things. But
Look right there to Brett, just to you. Oh,
Oh.
I didn't give your phone number.
Yes.
but I don't know. I'll check. That sounds good. I'm gonna say yeah tentatively. I'll double check.
Okay.
If you can't throw in a text, I answer. I get your texts. So, but anyway, good seeing everybody.
No, everybody has your phone number.
Yeah.
We're all going to text you.
You'll never feel alone again.
All right. Thanks,
Cool.
Brett.
All right. Thanks, guys. I'll see you.
Yep. We'll catch you later. That's two. All right. I forgot what the hell I was thinking now. Shit. So Chad, I was hoping we were going to get to play like some kind of like, after hours game, like set up some kind of RPG that maybe we could, all jump in together. Brett's never played Call of Cthulhu or anything before. Like he plays in our Fear game. It's the first RPG he's ever played. And he's great. He's fantastic. He's so much fun to play with. But yeah, we could never like schedule the time in.
Yeah. I found that I don't know if I'm still roboting, but I'm just going to say it. Okay, I found that when hang out at the games, they just come together. So yeah, next time we'll refine.
We'll plan ahead.
So,
Yeah, we'll have to like set up something beforehand. Like we'll like, hey, Saturday night at whatever time we'll try to set something up or whatever. That would be cool. Yeah, especially if we could get John. We just get everybody together. We'll just do like 10 people.
yeah, well, I'll tell you what. This Extra Life thing is kind of a good way to game with a lot of people.
That's true. Did you talk to Jessica at all? Are they planning on maybe doing that again next year or 2 years from now?
I think Edwin and Sean, who run it, will want to do it again.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, we might have to get in on that next time then.
I feel like I missed out on that because I wasn't aware of it. Like I heard something about Extra Life, but I didn't really see it promoted in any way, and I didn't understand how do you sign up for it. And maybe next year.
I was a giant jerk and neglected to mention it during the live show, which was the whole idea.
So it's your fault.
In a way, I mean, nobody else really knew about it. We didn't have a news segment. Announcements didn't go into the schedule, and I really regret that. But they raised a lot of money. They weren't short of people. So.
Yeah, no, that's cool. Did you play any games while you were there, Ash, or no?
The one game of Lovecraft Letter we played was the only thing I wound up attending while I was there. I think that's for the next Necronomicon. I want to game as much as humanly possible.
Oh yeah.
So in other words, 4 games.
But yeah, so it's another like 2 or 3.
That's all you can do.
Yeah,
Have you heard of this Bluebeard's Bride?
Yes. Actually, you guys covered it on the show. I don't remember which episode. I would plug it if I remembered, but
November last year. Yeah, it's an intense game about the fractured mind of a single woman who is trapped in a house of horrors, and it's intense and it was hard, and we shut the door after a while and definitely decided not to record. But I very much enjoyed it in that it was a valuable gameplay experience. It's called a feminine horror game, and it really sheds light on horrors that aren't usually covered in Call of Cthulhu, for example.
Wow. What was that name again?
It's called Bluebeard's Bride. It's based on the Apocalypse World engine.
Mm-hmm.
and I recommend it if you play it with people you know and trust.
Mm-hmm.
One of those games.
Well, let me ask you this then. I'm assuming you played with all guys. So how did that?
Yeah.
So how did that work? Like, did you guys feel uncomfortable or unsure as to kind of? Because obviously we have a different set of perspectives, going in.
Yeah, absolutely. It's I'd like to play it in a mixed gender group later, but what we could get together at the time was an all-male group. Actually, there was one woman who didn't want to be the only woman on the group and declined. So there was, going into it, there were sort of gender politics that were interesting. And well,
yeah, sorry. I just always find that very disappointing. I find that I have had the most fun being the only female and I mean, when the gender dynamic is skewed, because then you can just take it and run with it to your advantage.
I don't disagree. Yeah, I don't disagree.
Because more women should do that. I found myself, I can't believe I'm admitting this on air, but I crashed Worldcon last year, Mid-Americon 2. I ended up crashing it and helped my friend Phil Robinson out when he needed to recruit some more gamers for a panel, not a panel, but a gaming session that he was doing in their gamer room for Call of Cthulhu. It was Lovers Trapped in the Ice or something. And he was running that, and we needed more gamers. So I immediately went out and recruited like 3 other girls. And so we had a good time. We had a good time. I think that women should definitely, come on, ladies, don't be shy.
Well, I don't disagree with you, but I will say that this game in particular is really intense and pushes buttons, and so I can't really fault anyone, male or female, for saying, well, I'm not sure I'm super comfortable here, but but I agree. Like it's not that it should be that way all the time, like all male or all female. That would be disappointing.
Yeah.
But as far as what you're saying about the discomfort, it was very uncomfortable going into it. The characters that you play are sort of stereotypes of femininity. So it's mother and virgin and witch, and those are your character types. And they all have different powers and different abilities. It's so brilliant. The design just blows me away, and what it does, what it became, because it was all male. Sorry to go on and on about this, but it was a power.
No, it's okay. I want to hear about it.
Because it was all male, it certainly put a mirror up to our male perception of these roles or these stereotypes, and how a woman would just certain things, and what's there's sexuality in it, there's manipulations in there, and to have all sort of channeling what they think, which is illuminating. And not wrong, just sort of like, oh, that's interesting. We are not women. And this is our idea of how this should be played. And corruption, and you just riffing happened. And I really value that session.
Cool. I'm glad that it was able to kind of hold a mirror up. And I mean, as a female, I can see how that would seem a little bit uncomfortable, but I would actually find that rather amusing. I would love to. I would have loved to have been able to watch this occur.
Fly on the wall.
We closed the door right down. We had a couple of friends open the door anyway. So that was interesting. Happened, but yeah, it was definitely a thing we wouldn't want recorded and scrutinized and taken out of context.
Hmm.
Oh man, that would have been so much fun.
I'll play it again if somebody will run it. So
Okay. Hey, if you and John and everybody gets together and somehow thing that you're doing online and you need someone to hop it, I'm there.
Got it.
We'll get all guys to play it, and we'll get Leah to GM it.
Yes.
That would be. I think that would be great.
Oh
That would,
no! Okay.
I'll get the PDF.
Yes.
I don't know that we'll record that one, but
Oh no! It's got to be recorded.
No, you know what? The recorder. We also decided the recorder would change things. So it would make us sort of self-edit and change the narrative. Instead of going deep.
No.
Oh no.
No. So
It's recording.
well, this isn't really Necronomicon related, but do you find when you play, because you guys don't do a lot of actual plays for Miskatonic University podcast, but you guys have some,
like you guys. Yeah.
I mean, this is our shtick. But do you find that recording sessions changes the way that people play at the table?
Absolutely. No question. In fact, we have talked about that, and Murph, who is he's a kind of a gonzo player. He likes to push boundaries and whatnot, and he's known for that now, but he has said he's done a couple of really crazy things now famous to our avid listeners where he, sort of disrupted the game as a player. And he has said on mic, I think, that he does it because he's performing. He thinks that the listeners expect something a little more extra entertaining. He wants to throw some curveballs, and we're all like, yeah, man, maybe not. Maybe not throw the curveballs.
Don't throw the suitcase off the train.
Exactly. Suitcase off the train. He brought a bomb to a hospital at one point.
Yep. I listened to that not too long ago.
Yeah.
Well,
And so poor Dan was trying to figure out how to, okay, well, I guess the police show up, and now what the hell am I going to do? Interesting, and that pushes some improvisation buttons, but definitely different. And I a silly character, a little more theatrical character. Things. Does it do it for you too?
Because I've played so many games online. I was on 2 podcasts prior to this. So I've played a ton of games online. I think, for me at least, I don't think it's so much of a consideration. I mean, if I have to edit something mentally that I would say, I probably maybe shouldn't be saying whatever that is anyway. So it sort of becomes a I play as I interview as I am in my own life. It's funny, every character you play is a little piece of yourself in some fashion or another. So it's all there. So I don't really think about it anymore. It used to freak me out when we would interview people, just because it's like, oh my God, I don't know who this person is. Even if you do research, you're just like a random person that I invited to come on into my living room and chat about, random, it used to kill me. Now, it's like nothing. I mean, Ken Height, sure, come on, we'll talk to you about whatever. It's just not a big thing anymore. And I think the gaming, at least for me, is kind of gone the same way. I feel like, for me, it's never as good as it should be, or maybe as good as it could be. I love Fandible, and they're, I guess, kind of close to where you are, Jed. They're over in New York. They're phenomenal. I mean, they're like one of the best podcasts on air and have been, since the inception. I mean, they're fantastic, and they're good people. They're friendly, whatever. Like, we've exchanged messages and whatever. That's what I aspire to be as good as they are. Their solo shot right now, they just wrapped up their first season. It's amazing. And it's one-on-one. It's GM players, Angela and Billy. It's phenomenal. And the system wouldn't even matter. They're doing Edge of the Empire, but it could be anything, and they're just it's so good. So I'm not there. That's where I want to be, but But, Do you get a lot of gaming in, Ash, or no? RPG wise,
a lot of video gaming. I don't get as much tabletop in as I want to. I think over the last year I played a ton of D&D.
Mm-hmm.
So that was really nice. I can't get too much Call of Cthulhu in. The play group I have over here, they're very gonzo. Like I'll try and set up something that's like somber, and within 5 minutes they'll have like killed as many people as they humanly can, and now they're like eating people's bones for fun. So it's hard. Sure. It's hard to kind of manage that Lovecraftian sensibility.
Sure. We'll have to get you in on some kind of a game if we can. Maybe Jeff can. We'll get somebody get you in there. Get Chad to run a game.
Totally.
Yeah,
sure. Definitely. Yep. I was hoping that would game invitations. I heard you.
Yeah.
We're losing Leah. The third one down.
Bye. Have a good night, everybody.
Thanks for coming on. Yeah, Murph had said something about trying to jump in on some games. So I mean, I would love it. I mean, I love to play. We play all the time. To be able to play with you guys, collectively, you guys here, and the larger group would just be fantastic. I mean, just so much fun.
Yeah. We're trying to. I am trying to push for testing some weirder, fringier games as well. There's one that's an EC Comics.
Awesome.
Kind of, yeah, and it looks really great. It's very light on combat. You just sort of declare what you want in a scene, and then you roll dice. It's very narrative, and I think it could create some very, very cool stuff. So that's popping up. We played a 200-word RPG a few weeks ago that hasn't aired yet. I want to play some of this weird stuff that we're not getting to in the horror role-playing realm.
Yeah, no, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, that sounds like exactly the kind of stuff I want to be doing. That's fantastic.
Great. All right, well, you've got 3 players right here, Chad.
Awesome.
All right.
I remember
I will take that seriously. Yeah.
Hey, you've got my number.
Brian was talking about this like a business card RPG, like a Nano World or something.
Yep.
Like that.
Oh yeah.
I looked it up. I had a hard time.
I have it in my wallet.
I had a hard time navigating their website. I couldn't figure out how to purchase it. But
okay. Max has it. That's I think he was selling it while he was there. It's not his game, but yeah, it's on a business card, and I've had it in my wall. 13, I think, and I haven't played it yet. Max ran it out at the gaming room.
Cool. Yeah, some of those like one-page RPGs are just like the best. Like when I tried out for the Dragon Fisters, I don't remember what the name of the game was, but it was literally like one page, and then the other side was like spells and whatever. And we just RP'd the shit out of it. It was so much fun. And it was like there was nothing to it. And it was like 1d6 to roll and do all your stuff, but it just had so much flavor and character to it. I mean, that's the players, I guess. But yeah, that was a ton of fun.
It's no secret, it's one of my favorite, and it's 2 pages. I just love it.
Mm-hmm.
Lovecraftian.
Cthulhu Dark too. Before the Kickstarter was just like a page or 2 as well.
I just got my printed book for that.
Oh, did that ship already?
Oh, nice.
Yep, just got it a couple days ago, I think.
Very cool.
Cool.
All right.
All right. I think I'm gonna.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was going to say, we should probably get into wrap this thing up here. I think we've probably beaten the dead horse now.
Yeah.
But it was 2017 Necronomicon was awesome. I mean, it was great getting to see everybody, to meet Ash in person. We'd, talked on Twitter and obviously to get to see you guys again and, have Jeff come back in his full glory as a, fully ranked GM and everything. So it was really cool. And yeah, it's just such a good time and everybody's so into it and the community's really tight. I mean, you have those outliers that, maybe cause some problems prior or maybe unintentionally during, but I mean, you get people are people. So, I mean, you get that kind of stuff, but it's just such a great community to be a part of. And it's such a good time every 2 years. I wish they could do it every year because every two, it's like, man, when's the next Necronomicon?
It's hard, but it does make a mandate. Like,
yeah, it's one of the.
Right? Oh, I think
you're
I'm
roboting.
roboting.
Yeah, you are.
Thanks to you, John, because you put in a lot of work setting all this stuff up and gathering, herding cats, and so thanks to you for all your work you're doing too.
No thanks to me. I mean, I'm glad that you guys, all wanted to be a part of it and, accepted. And I mean, it's not like we're all relatively, well, I mean, at least for Jeff and I new at this, so we're just kind of like winging things and flying by the seat of our pants. It was a lot of fun. And I appreciate you guys, taking part and, the MU guys' moral support coming in and checking things out. Cause that, it's try to make everybody's things, go to the HP Lovecraft Literary Podcast, go to their live show support and, come to your guys' live show and, just trying to see all the people and do all the things and, just kind of, be there for, support all the cool things that everybody's doing. So it's just so much fun. So on that note, I guess we'll wrap this thing up. Chad's messaging in the thing.
I didn't mean to interrupt. I didn't mean to interrupt your wrap.
You caught my eye. I was like, "What? Oh shit!" No, that's all right. That's all right. So So thank you guys for coming on. Thanks everybody for checking this out. I have links in the show notes. I think there already are. So check out Into the Darkness. Check out the MU podcast. I've got Ash's link to his blog over there. So check all that stuff out. Brett's music. Rate, leave us reviews on iTunes or Podchaser, whatever podcatcher you're using. Everybody's shows could use the help. And everybody, appreciates somebody taking a minute just to go out and say, hey, I like it. It's cool. I guess you could say you don't like it, but please leave a reason why. That way, if there's something specifically that you don't like about something that, we can all make changes and, take that under consideration. But we appreciate everybody checking it out and we'll catch you next time.